Before I was actually in the music business, I was just a boy with a guitar. And I fell in love with writing songs and songwriting when I was 14. And I did this until I was around 30 years old. And then I linked up with a lady out in Los Angeles named Judy Stakee. And Judy had worked with writers like Sheryl Crow, Joy Williams, Gavin DeGraw, and Katy Perry. I was lucky enough to meet her and become part of her first ever songwriting group, which now I think is in year 10. And it was a changing moment for me. It was a life-changing, career-changing moment because I shifted from doing songwriting as a hobby to thinking about it as a career. We're so lucky to have her with us today. I'm super excited for you guys to meet her. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Judy Stakee is leading the new age of music. An author, speaker, and advisor, Judy encourages artists and songwriters to define their perspective and share a powerful creative message. The Judy Stakee Company is a full-service artist development and entertainment company that develops the minds, bodies, and souls of artists and songwriters to achieve the career of their dreams. With over 40 years of experience as an executive in the music industry and 20 years as Senior Vice President of Creative at Warner Chappell, Judy advises creative minds around the world. She is a true champion of the songwriter and has a great eye for talent. She is responsible for developing and signing many of today's most acclaimed artists, including Grammy Award winner Sheryl Crow, Katy Perry, Gavin DeGraw, and Joy Williams. Judy has also developed an innovative methodology that includes developing the body, mind, and the soul of artists and songwriters that is being adapted into the music curriculums of renowned music institutions in the US and beyond. Judy, we're so happy to have you. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Most welcome.
Judy, tell us more. Most of my listeners for my podcast, they're artists, they're songwriters, they're producers, they're composers. It's a wild assortment of people, publishers, managers, labels. I'd love to hear more about your journey going back to before you were at Warner Chappell. Take us through your journey.
Okay. Well, you caught me at a good time because I actually just wrote a book and my memoir of my career. So this is very much planted in my head. I came out of the womb singing and dancing, as my mother said, and followed music. It was everything to me. And I graduated from USC with a degree in music and got out of college. And as I say, there was no internet. And my parents did not, they were supportive, but they didn't have the connections. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? And, by the, Irish luck here, I met a woman who came out from New York to be in the music business. And I was like, there's a place to go. There's an actual music business, So I followed her and started working at Arista Music under the tutelage of Billy Michelle, rest in peace, who was an amazing music publisher and one of my early mentors who really taught me about developing songwriters and what songwriters did and how to listen to a song and everything in between.
Yeah.
And so I started as a secretary for Billy and worked my way up to what they called a general professional manager. But really, no matter what my title was in the music industry, I was called a song plugger. That's what I did.
Yeah.
What I was taught to do was to find songs, listen to songs, develop songwriters and songs in order for them to be great. And then I would take those songs and plug them into projects, hence a song plugger. So if Faith Hill's looking for a song and Joe Schmo had a song, then I would take that and then go pitch it to Faith. And when she cut it, we'd all make money.
Yeah.
So I spent 7 years at Arista Music, which of course was part of Arista Records, part of the Clive Davis reign. And it was really special because it was a very small company. And so there was a community there and it was very small and everybody was so reachable.
Yeah.
So I spent 7 years there. I got to work with the Henry Mancini catalog. I got to work with the Chinny Chap catalog, which was Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin, who were very, very famous for bands like Spider and Suzi Quatro. They wrote hits for Pat Benatar and Tina Turner and were just amazing. And then it got a little small for me. And so wanting to grow and keep developing myself, I then went over to Screen Gems Music, which was part of the Capital EMI family. And I worked there for 3 years. And as much as Arista was to me my business degree, so to speak,
Sure.
so learning what BMI and ASCAP were and what a song was, and all the different departments of a record company, and just all the different players. When I got to Screen Gems, it was, I got to really put all of that knowledge into practice. And I signed writers, and I signed Scott Cutler, who we had a nice Grammy nomination with Piano in the Dark for Brenda Russell that year. I signed Rick Knowles, who was coming off of he wrote with Belinda Carlisle, the song "Heaven Is a Place on Earth." He was just coming off of Stevie Nicks' album and went on, of course, to write things for Madonna and Dido and so forth. Yeah. And I signed a writer named Jennifer Kimball, who had a big hit with "I Swear" with John Michael Montgomery and it wasn't the back.
All for One.
All for One. Thank you. All for One. So it was great because our songwriters would come in and I got to be in the studio, which I had never been before. I never got to see the writing process. The other great thing about Screen Gems, it housed the catalog of the old Brill building. So I found myself at the age of 27 being in charge of Carole King, Jerry Goffin, Barry Mann, and Cynthia Weil. With no cell phones around to take pictures of, it's like, unless you were at an award show back then, I have no pictures of anything. But it was wonderful to be in their presence and to be able to witness and see how they did things. So that was another education that I got, which both of those Arista and Screen Gems prepared me for my longest run, which was at Warner Chappell. And I went to Warner Chappell in 1989 and was there for 20 years. Yeah. And I ran the creative department. I became a senior vice president of creative, and I was still a song player. So my department was divided into two areas. One was I signed and developed and managed most of the writers on the West Coast, the staff songwriters who wrote for other people and so forth. And then the other half of my department was signing and developing songwriters who developed into artists. So on the songwriting front, I signed, oh my gosh, the list goes on. John Shanks, Jamie Houston, Matthew Gerard, Julian Bonetta, Kevin Kadish, so forth and so on. And then on the artist side, I signed Sheryl Crow and Jewel and Michelle Branch and Katy Perry and Joy Williams, a lot of girls. And it was an amazing place. It was an amazing time to be in publishing because publishing was just, it ruled the world. I mean, at one point, it wasn't as important, but when, with the internet and with touring becoming so important and with record sales, diminishing, in the like the 2000s and so forth, or like I should say that like 2005 and 6, publishing became really, really, really important. And so I found myself in a great position, and I loved every minute of it, developing and managing these songwriters. And, 20 years, I had a great wingspan, as I said, to do whatever I wanted. But with the implement of the internet and I say is the perfect storm of the growth of the internet, the catastrophe of 9/11, and then the changing of the guard from paper to digital. Yeah, it changed everything in not just in the music business, but for the entire world. You had to put every single piece of paper that was in a file cabinet into the computer, or no one got paid. That was my paycheck, and that was every license for all I want to do is have some fun, which were there, 500 of them. So that took a lot of manpower and a lot of money. And so things really changed in the like 2005, 2006, and it became a whole new world, which we're living in now. We're living in, downloads and not, people not owning things as much. And we're in a world also where the song is shorter, which is so crazy for me. The songs are, below 3 minutes now. But it allowed me to really to give time and thought to what I really wanted to do. And I decided to leave the corporate life, and I left in 2009 and started my own business. Mainly because what I am really passionate about and have been passionate about the whole time was the development part, was developing the songwriter. I loved being with the songwriter and trying and figuring out with them how, what do you want to write about? How do you do this? What's your perspective? Who would be good to put with you? And I think that I believe this wholeheartedly, that is what is so important. I mean, I think that, how do you market yourself and how you get cuts and, all of the other is really important also, but you can't have that until you know how to write a great song. Yeah. You can't have the career until you're great at what you do. I mean, even if you want to bake cakes for a living, until you learn how to bake a great cake, you're not going to be able to sell it. So it's the same for songwriters. And so I have really devoted my life and my career to developing songwriters and started my company in 2009 and really never looked back. I love working for myself, first of all, with my dog at my feet, who's not barking right now, which is great. And I do that by one-on-one consultations. I provide song critiques, which I think are the most important of what I do, because having a mirror in front of you is so important in the development process. If you're trying to do this all alone without somebody going, I'm sorry, you got too much sugar in there. It's like, again, I go back to the cake analogy, but you need a taste tester in there. So I provide song critiques. I provide week-long retreats where I take writers away from their duties and their everyday life and what they have, what they think their life should be. And I teach them my methodology, which is something that I have come up with. And I give them, I give them a really good foundation to build their career on. Yeah. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, 100%. And, in the intro to the episode, I talked about how it was a life-changing and career-changing shift for me when I went to, I think it was your first class, maybe one of the early ones. Yeah, it was at your house back in like 10 years ago now. And until that time, I've loved songwriting, but I was writing as a hobby. And it was a moment for me where I thought, okay, this is a career and I need to think differently about this. And you taught me that. And yes, you're just, you hold a dear place in my heart, and you're such an amazing woman and an amazing teacher. And I think that anybody who's going through this, learning to write, would gain incredible value from working with you. And I'm just happy to have you on here. So,
well, it gives me such joy to see, the students that I've had go on and have amazing careers, so you use that as a platform to build upon. And that's, it's what I do is I want to lay a foundation so that you can build a great career. So good on you.
Well, thank you. Let's talk about some of the common challenges that you find songwriters have.
My methodology is based on 2 questions. And the first question is, what is a song? And I define the song as being the integration of your voice, your lyrics, and your melody. And if you're going to develop those, if you're going to have to develop those for the rest of your life, then you're going to have to develop your body, mind, and soul. And I just back up. The second question is, how do you develop? Which is you develop by your body, mind, and soul. So it's those 6 tools, the voice, the lyric, and the mind, the body, mind, and soul, that if you look at your life through that filter, then you can really hone in on what you need to work on. So your voice doesn't exist without your body. So if your body is not in shape, and I don't mean, being Mr. Universe, I mean being healthy, having good sleep, good diet, good exercise, so that when you show up to a co-writing, a co-write session, that you are prepared, that you can last the whole day, that you are not, I only had 2 hours of sleep last night and I didn't have anything to eat this morning. It's like, you're no good to me,
Yeah.
at all. So it's being aware of what you have to put in place. And I think the challenges for most writers is looking at their life as a business, as a career. I mean, I get a lot of writers who show up and go, well, I wrote poetry in high school and I play a little guitar and I sing and I want to be an artist and I want to be a songwriter. And it's like, there's a lot more to it. It is not for the faint of heart. Songwriting is not. There's a lot of work to be put into it. And I think that's one of the challenges. All right. The other challenge I see from a lot of writers is having their own perspective on things. It's very easy to repeat what has been said. Your perspective is what you think about love, not what everybody. Love is a subject, love stinks is a perspective, let's say. So one of the examples I use is I had a client who was having trouble with lyrics, and I said to him, I thought you had a really bad breakup, which of course, you'd think you'd get 20 songs out of a bad breakup. And he got a little upset and he was like, my relationship is like a big ball of string in the corner over there. And if I start unraveling it, it's going to go everywhere. And I'm not ready for that. And I said, well, there's your song right there. There's your lyrics. So it's not listening to themselves, because I think that's one of my techniques is I ask a lot of questions. And when someone brings me a song, it's like, don't look at the lyrics. Just tell me why you wrote it. Tell me what motivated you. And I sit there and I will write down what they're saying to me. And then I'll show it to them and go, here's your lyric right here. Listen to the way you talk. Listen to what you believe. Listen to your perspective. But it's turning the table so that they look more about themselves than outside of themselves.
What would you say would be the difference between a great song and a hit song?
Marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a fair answer. I like that. Yeah.
There are a lot of great songs out there that I have on my playlist that have never been hits, but they are great songs. And I have this playlist that I play at my retreats, and anybody can go on Spotify and sign up for it. It's Judy's Favorites. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, that song's amazing. I never knew that song. I'm like, yeah, well, there's a lot of great songs out there. So I think I really do think that's the difference.
Let's talk about co-writing and collaborations. What are your thoughts on that process for songwriters?
Well, I think it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that, to try and do it on your own it's noble. And there are writers out there. Diane Warren is one of them who does not co-write a lot. It's been, maybe a handful that she has co-written with. And that's from the very beginning. But for most of us out there, it's much easier to have somebody in the room who it will be a mirror, who can say, I'm not sure if that's the greatest. Let's keep going. Let's try harder. Let's do something different. It's just an easier process. And I think more fun. I mean, when you come to my retreats, you co-write every day with two different people. I like co-writes in threes, because then it's not just yes or no. There's always, a third one that can break the tie. Yeah. And it's quicker. It's much quicker.
Yeah. And you mentioned or we should touch on, I think, how your words matter in a session when you're doing a co-write. With the words you'd say instead of saying, oh, I don't like that. No, let's keep going. Let's keep searching, because it's a creative conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the way you treat people is very, very important. Yeah. I don't do it as much, but at Warner Chappell, I was, setting up my writers with other co-writers all the time. And it didn't really matter, if they were young or they were old or whatever. It's like, if they were really talented and they were a kind person, didn't matter. Franny Goldie, who wrote, she's had hit after hit after hit after hit. She wrote, well, the ones I'm going to tell you she wrote with the person, but when I called her and said, I want you to write with Casey Livingston, who's brand new writer, just graduated from USC. I played her stuff and she said, this girl's good. I said, yeah, she's a lovely person. They got together and wrote Stick With You for the Pussycat Dolls. So, awesome. It didn't matter to Franny how tall she was, what age she was, whatever. She's talented and kind, then that'll get you a lot further than anything else.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about hooks and finding great hooks, which you kind of touched on earlier with finding a way to speak with your own voice and saying things that haven't been said before. Is there anything else you would add to writing, finding that great hook that really stands out?
As I say, is that when you get to the hook, let me back up. One of the examples I use is that if you're, I do a whole visual here, but you start on the diving board, the little diving board, and that's your first verse, right? And then you jump into the air and you do a little somersault, and that's your pre. And then you dive into the pool, that's your chorus. When you get to the chorus, when you get to that, and each one, of course, is a hook, but each one should be different. Each one should have something specific to it that makes it special. But when you go into a chorus, you want to make a splash, so to say. And I can't tell you how many writers will, da 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 da, and then they get to the chorus and go da 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 da. And it's like you ended on the same note in the pre that you're starting your chorus with. How would it be if you just went da da, up a little?
Right.
You want to think of your chorus as, making a splash.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. Well, one of the little tools that I teach, and it came out of London, out of some workshop, and I'm not sure where, but I inherited it and I love it, is a little tool called RPM, and it stands for rhythm, phrasing, and melody. So when you go from a verse to a pre to a chorus, change something. So you have your verse going da 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 da, go to your pre and go da 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 da. Change something. So change the rhythm, the phrasing, and the melody, so each one stands out.
Okay, let's talk about the songwriting process across genres. Would you say there's any difference when you're writing for hip hop versus country versus rock versus pop?
Yes. I mean, oh boy.
It's a loaded question. I know.
I'm not in hip hop rooms as much. Okay. I know that they will use a lot of teams. They will use a lot of people, they'll use, it's more track oriented. There's much more spoken word kind of lyrics. Okay. Not as much maybe melody, where in country music, you're writing from 9 to 3, and that's it, and it's on a guitar and the track is done later. Maybe, I'm not saying for every country song, because there's definitely country now that combines with hip hop. And pop music is, everything's shorter these days. So there are definite distinctions. And I think that you have to know those distinctions when you get into it. I'm a huge Olivia Rodrigo fan, and I will admit that I became a fan before Driver's License came out, because I heard her song All I Want on the radio and went, who is this girl? So I was listening to the full album last week, and I got done with it, and it's really good. I mean, her songs are really good. Her lyrics are good. But there was something, I felt a little cheated, because all the songs were short. Half of the songs are less than 3 minutes. They're like 2:45. And it's like, just when you're getting into a song, it's like it stops,
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's pop music. People aren't writing bridges as much, which I miss. And country music to me has taken over where pop kind of has left off.
Well, tell us more about your workshops and retreats, and how can people who are listening find them?
Well, you can go to judystakee.com. JudyStakeeRetreats.com is the retreat website. I just love these retreats. I really do. And I've missed them, because the last one I did was the week before we shut down. I was in Nashville, flew home, and then it was done.
Oh, wow.
So it was nice not flying around for a year, but I've just started them up. I have my first one in August in Nashville, and then one in California at the end of August, and then I'll be going back to Nashville in October. I think they're amazing. You come away for a week, and you have 5 days. Well, really, you arrive the first day, and you leave on the last day. But those 3 days in between, I take you through my methodology, and so every day, we're working on the body, the voice, the lyrics, the mind, the soul, the melody. And each day is
you focus on a different topic.
Yes, thank you very much. No coffee. I'm off coffee. I needed it today. Each day focuses on a different area. We start with yoga in the morning. the food is very healthy and very healing on the body. In the morning, we do workshops until 1:00, 1:00, excuse me. And then we have lunch. And then in the afternoons, you co-write with me, going around to all the different groups and critiquing right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So that you don't get done with your song and then find out that you missed something. And then in the evening, everybody performs the song that they wrote that day. It's, like I said, it's geared towards my methodology. So we spend every day, there are exercises toward the voice, there's exercise toward the mind, there's exercises toward the soul. And it's a very bonding experience, because a lot of writers out there don't, they do it by themselves. They do it in their own city. They only have maybe a few co-writers. And then they come and all of a sudden they have brothers and sisters, a couple dozen of them. And for life, it's really interesting to see how these writers help each other. And, somebody's going to Nashville. It's like, I need a couch. It's like 3 people are like, you can stay with me. You can stay with me. And people are writing over Zoom. And it's a beautiful experience, and it's me. I may Skype in somebody on the last day to do a little talk. But you're with me the whole time, because I believe that this is the kind of retreat that you go to set the foundation. And even if you've set a foundation for yourself, maybe there's some holes in it that you need filled.
Oh, I was just thinking I need a refresher. I need to sign up for one of these.
Alumni. There's the alumni one in October. And the alumni is once you've taken the first one, we still have to apply. But when you've taken one of my first retreats, you then come back, and there's not a lot. I've taught you everything you need to teach as far as the foundation. Now it's about practice. Yeah. Now it's about, okay, every day there's an assignment. And I bring in somebody who is giving the assignment. So an A&R person says, I'm looking for this, so write me songs. And so 6 people write songs for it. 6 groups write songs for it. Yeah.
And how about the recording process? Do you do any recording while in Nashville? Or
we do. It's harder because you have people there who are not, at the first one you don't. I record all the songs when you're performing them that night. And the alumni, yes, you produce the songs as you're writing them.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I'm there.
Yay! Yeah, that'd be great.
All my questions you answered and then some, and I think there's just so much to learn from you. So for anybody listening, Judy Stakee, JudyStakee, and you can find her online and find her retreats and her website. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Jody, good to see you. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something new today that will help you in your career, whether you're a songwriter or a producer or a composer. A lot of great insight into that world. And thank you for tuning in. Keep making great music. Keep writing great songs. It all starts with the song. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay cool. Peace.